If you're in a market like ours and you're a productive, successful agent, I'm sure you're seeing that the market is starting to heat up. My name is Mike Novak, part of the Novak real estate team right here at Real Brokerage. If you're curious about learning about Real Brokerage, I would love to have a conversation with you and share with you why our team moved over to Real back in 2021 and how it's been one of the best business decisions we have ever made. We've partnered with agents across the country. I'd love to have a conversation about how we could partner with you as well. But back to the topic at hand, we're talking about how to make your offer stand out. We had this conversation back in 2021. We're having it again now. We're having it again because in our market, inventory is super low. We're at half a month of inventory right now, and we're seeing multiple offers again. So as an agent, what are you doing to position your buyer to win and to win big when there's multiple offers going on? I'm going to jump into all of that today. I got about 13 things that I want you to think about. I'm going to list them all down below in the video, so you don't have to take notes, but if you want to, feel free to, okay? The first thing I want to talk about, number one, develop a strategy for each house you're thinking about listing on. Every house is a little bit different. There's a lot of variables I look at when I think about my strategy for a house. I first of all look at how long it's been on the market. What's the days on market? Because my strategy on day 1 is different than day 14 and it's different than day 30. So I always want to look at how long it's been listed to put in the back of my mind what my strategy could be. It's just going to be different based on days on market. The second thing that I look at when I'm developing my strategy is how competitive I think that home's going to be. There's certain areas and price points in my market that are much more competitive than others, and I know that most of those are going to be a battle, whereas others might be able to actually get some concessions. Just totally depends on the location, the price point. If your market's like mine, just something you want to be aware of. The last thing I'll do is look at the activity of how much interest that home has gotten. You know, you can look it up in showing time in our market and see how many showings are booked out for it, which is helpful to see. You can see the business cards dropped at the house as well. In our market, you're supposed to drop a business card when you show the listing. Not everyone does, but it kind of gives you an idea of how many people might be circling on that house. And then of course, I'll call the listing agent once I know my client likes the home. I'll just ask them how the activity has been. How many showings have you had? Has anyone told you they're planning an offer? Where do you think this thing is going out in price? Questions like that, right? And some agents will share a lot with you, some won't share anything with you. Either one's totally fine. It's my job to ask the questions, get as much information as the agent for my client. But it starts with developing a strategy that is house to house dependent based off of a whole bunch of different variables, but those are some of the top ones that I'm going to look at, okay? The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pull comps. If you're a buyer's agent and you're representing a buyer, you still have a financial responsibility to make sure the price they're paying for the home makes financial sense. You don't want to just guess on price. You don't want to just shoot from the hip and say, hey, let's offer $10,000 off or $10,000 over because it sounds like a nice rounded price. That is not a strategy to buy a home, people. That is like buying something on eBay. It's just guessing. We don't like to guess. We like to use data to make better and more informed decisions, okay? So I will do for my buyers just what I do for my sellers. I'll pull a full-blown CMA. I'll show them all of the comps that are within about a 2-mile radius down to a half-mile radius, depending on where it's located, similar size, age, condition, proximity to that home. I'll show them what they were listed for, how much they sold for. That helps my client better understand the market, and it helps me give them better advice on what to offer, okay? The next variable we want to talk about, earnest money. Higher is better in our market. I recommend 1 to 3% to my clients. If you can get to 3%, why not do 3%? It's one way to strengthen your offer that does not cost you anything extra. Go ahead and do that. Coach your client to do it. I always tell my clients it's $1 less for every dollar you put in that you're going to have to bring to the closing table, okay? So consider strengthening your earnest money going to 3%. If they're going to put 3% down, why not do 3% in earnest money? You got to bring the cash in at some point anyway. Next up is appraisal coverage. So if your client has some cash, you might think about covering a low appraisal if one's going to occur. In our market, we can specify in a low appraisal addendum the dollar amount we could make up if the appraisal comes back low. So if you got someone that's say offering 10% down, maybe instead you change that to 5% down and repurpose the other 5% to appraisal coverage, right? So the cash to close is the same for the buyer. The 5% plus the appraisal coverage equals the 10%, but it positions their offer in a much better way. I call this the highest and best use of the client's cash. Make sure you can explain this to your client so they understand the benefits and the drawbacks to covering a low appraisal. It's something you're going to want to consider. An escalated offer is only as good as that buyer's ability to cover the low appraisal. So it's going to be on the back of the mind of the listing agent and the seller for sure. The next thing to consider, inspection strategy. You need to decide as the agent, is in the client's best interest to do a pre-inspection. Has the seller maybe already done an inspection they're going to make available to buyers, or is your client going to use a typical inspection contingency? They have to understand the pros and cons to waiving an inspection and to also using inspection contingency. It's not just simple black and white. You need to be able to explain this to them. And it also depends on the house too. Waiving an inspection on a 2022 build that's still under warranty warranty is very different than waiving an inspection on a 1916 home that you're not really sure if it's got knob and tube wiring is possibly falling apart, okay? Totally different risk classifications there, but you gotta be able to articulate the options to your buyer and then let them make the decision that's best for them. Down payment and loan programs is the next variables that you need to look at. So in our market, there's a lot of people that really believe conventional loan programs are the best because they have the least amount of things that can go wrong in appraisals. Whether it's true or not, that is what a lot of agents believe. So if you can do conventional, usually going to be your strongest. A lot of buyers though are FHA and they're VA. There's nothing wrong with that. You just need to make sure that you explain to your client how that's going to stack up if they're going up against a conventional offer, and make sure the condition of the home matches the loan type, so there's not gonna be any problems there that could get called out in appraisal, like chipped paint or a deck that's falling off or a roof that's collapsing or something like that for a VA loan. Those VA appraisers are very picky in our market, and they go poke their head in the attic, they go in the crawl space, all these other things that appraisers typically don't do, that home inspectors do. So there's that. The down payment also variable. Typically the higher the down payment, the stronger the offer in the eyes of the listing agent. It's kind of silly because it all turns to cash at closing. I'd way rather see, if I'm the listing agent, a whole bunch of appraisal coverage money than a huge down payment, but hey, that's just me. Just be aware of this and be able to explain and articulate to your client that the higher the down payment, typically the stronger the offer will be perceived. Next is the conversation about how to position your offer if the home is going to escalate above the listing price. Happens all the time in our market. You've got two options, or at least two options. I'm just going to cover two today. You've got your highest and best strategy, meaning you offer your highest amount no matter what, but it's just that number, take it or leave it. Or you've got an escalation approach where you specify your cap and the increment you'll go to that cap. So you can't go above that cap number, but you'll beat the next highest offer by that increment if your offer is the strongest offer, okay? I prefer the cap and the increment strategy because we're not guessing, and if there's no other offers, our client doesn't ever pay for the house, but ultimately it's your decision to make as the agent, and to some degree your buyer as well and what they're comfortable with. I understand why listing agents want highest and best offer. However, as the buyer's agent, maybe that's not the best thing for my client. So definitely something to think about and consider. Next up is the listing agent communication. Super important that as soon as your client loves the house at the tour, you reach out to the listing agent right away, let them know you showed the home, get any answers to questions that your client has, or ask that listing agent to call you if they're going to review an offer before the offer review date, or if they get any offers in. That way, you don't want to go home and have the home go pending that night while your client's thinking about it. You want to make sure you reach out right away to that listing agent, okay? Super important. You want to build a rapport right out of the gate. You want to show that listing agent you're going to be easy to work with. You've coached your client knows what to expect, and you're going to be on top of things. I cannot stress this enough. I've seen so many agents reach out to the listing agents on their team, and the way they conduct themselves is embarrassing. Be the professional, reach out frequently, be in communication with that listing agent so you're top of mind with them. Typically, in multiple offers, if the offers are similar, the listing agent is going to go with the person that's communicated the best with them, that they think is going to be the most likely to get their client across the finish line. If that's you, awesome for your client. Next up, the offer highlight sheet. This is like a cover letter for your offer. It's going to stipulate in one page the strengths of your offer to the listing agent. I love this strategy because it makes it easy for the listing agent to digest in one simple scan what's good about my offer. Of course, they're going to read the whole offer. I just want them to see in a moment why my offer is good and why they should take a closer look at it and really consider it. After that, I will ask the lender to call the listing agent and cross-sell my buyer as being pre-underwritten, strong financially, and make sure that listing agent has full confidence in my lender's ability to close. I do not send my clients to just any lender. I've got a couple lenders I've got very deep relationships with. I've seen them close dozens, if not hundreds of loans on our team, and I know these people are great. So if they pre-approve somebody, they pre-underwrite them, I know they're going to get them to the closing table. I want the listing agent to hear that firsthand as well. The last thing to mention, and there's states this is legal, there's states it's illegal in, so be very careful with this one, but consider writing a sympathy letter. This is a letter from the buyer to the seller explaining who they are, what they love about the house, and most importantly, a picture of their family with the dog and the cat or doing something fun, just really trying to tug at the heartstrings of that seller and get them to take their offer. You'd be surprised how successful this can be actually, especially if it's a family home that they've had for decades that's passing on after 30 years in the house, okay? So lots of information in this video. These are all strategies our team trains on, that we talk about, that we teach to other agents, both on our team and in our Real network. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if you're interested in hearing more about Real brokerage and why it's exploding, why it's growing so fast, why some of the top agents and teams in the country are moving to Real brokerage, reach out to me. All my contact information is down below. I will hop on a totally confidential free Zoom call with you and discuss if this could be a good option for you. It's not for everybody, but for those that it's good for, it's an awesome fit. It's a 10 out of 10, one of the best decisions we've made.